Wow, where did the time go today? Oh my god. I said I would be on at 5:30 p.m. live, but here I am. Yes, as always, have to take care of the little one before I start my streams, among other things. However, I'm happy to be here today. I'm here today live because I won't be here with you ladies tomorrow. Tomorrow is an exceptional, super fabulous, exciting, awesome, beautiful, great day tomorrow. I'm so excited, and I'll post tomorrow so you guys will know exactly what that little excitement is about. I'm so excited. How are you all doing today? I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing well. I'm doing okay. I'm doing great. Just to address something quickly that I think I may have forgotten to do. My Anchor and Spotify account is not so functional right now. As a matter of fact, each time I try to record on the Anchor app, Anchor app, on the Anchor app, it usually distributes my podcast to Spotify. However, for the past few weeks, each time I record the audio live on anchor.fm, when I'm to upload it, for some strange reason, it's blank. There is nothing. I don't know what has been happening, and that has been happening for a couple weeks now. So if you have been trying to stream on anchor.fm or Spotify, unfortunately you won't be able to find any recording for the past few weeks. I've been trying to work at it, but it's not happening, so I may have to abort those channels for now perhaps. But in the interim, you'll be able to join me live here on Instagram, as well as you'll be able to watch on the replay here on Instagram live, or Instagram rather. If you've missed it live, you'll be able to watch it on the replay at anointed_2_encourage, or you may also be able to watch it on the replay on YouTube at Aura Woman of Worth Francis. With that said, today I want to talk about a very what should I say, a very powerful topic, but also one that may be very ticklish for some, or for some perhaps it may be something that they have challenges in carrying out or functioning in to its full capacity. Or there might be persons who just simply are struggling with what I'm about to talk about today for different reasons, and I'll mention a few as I share today on the stream. And today I'll be talking about lacking in accountability leads to irresponsibility. Let me say that one more time. Lacking in accountability leads to irresponsibility. That in itself is so powerful. That in itself speaks great volume. And what that is saying is simply that when we're not holding ourselves accountable, or we don't have anyone to hold us accountable, somewhere along the lines we may not be as responsible individuals as we should be in the different areas that we should be functioning. And It could simply be in areas as a parent, it could be as a friend, it could be as a sister, it could be as an aunt, a niece, stuff like that. Or it could even simply means that in areas even in the body of Christ. And it's important to be accountable, or to hold ourselves accountable, or to have individuals to hold us accountable. That way we can be more responsible individuals. Because what happens is, if we are not holding ourselves accountable, or we don't have individuals to hold us accountable, then we could easily disappoint those whom we ought to be responsible for. And it could be, as I mentioned, it could be our kids or children. We could be parents, and because we are not held accountable, we do not take up the responsibility that we should. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's say if you are a single parent, and of course you are no longer together with the spouse or with the other parent, the father. And sometimes these things, when the parents are no longer together, they are separated, oftentimes it is the child or children who suffers for the lack of accountability or the lack of responsibility on either side. And sometimes this too happens sometimes because when the parents are no longer together, one parent or the other may be what we call spiteful, or may be provocative, in that sense that they think that them withholding what is due to the child or children, they may think that them being spiteful is affecting the other parent. But the truth be told, it is the child or children who really suffers from these immature behavior. And may I also state that when these things happen, the child or children, they are looking up or looking to the parents to provide, to care for them, and to nurture them, and to protect them, and that kind of a thing. So if the parent or parents are not being mature in how they handle their separation, then clearly it could lead to destruction, even for the children that are looking on for the parents to protect, care, love, and nurture, and provide for them. Now, accountability, it speaks for itself. And the word account, is the original word. So accountability derives from the word account, right? I hope I'm saying the right thing. And what accountability may look like is that it may look like giving an account. It may look like being committed, or staying true to commitments. It may look like honesty. It may look like honor. And that is just to name a few things that accountability looks like. Before I get into adding to what accountability looks like, there is a story in the book of Exodus chapter 3 where Moses was sent to the Egyptian leader by God to set free the children of Israel. Now, Moses, in his own mind, was thinking he was not the man, so to speak, to carry out the duties that God wanted him to carry out. he had doubts and fears and that kind of a thing. But he had to carry out the task or carry out the responsibilities that God gave him. And that is because the children of Israel's freedom was dependent on Moses' obedience. Yes, I said something very powerful right there. Let me just repeat it for you, for those who are in the back. Moses had to carry out the duties or the responsibility of that which God had given him, because the children of Israel's freedom was dependent on his actions. His obedience was what would cause the children of Israel to walk in freedom, to not only walk in freedom, but also to get to the promised land and to inherit the promises of God. Now, Moses, I guess I could also say that accountability looks like obedience too. You know? Yes, I guess I can say that. It may look like obedience too. No, Moses had to also inform the elders of the instructions that God gave him, to go to the Egyptian leaders and to let the Egyptian leader knows exactly what God had instructed Moses to inform them of, so that they could free the children of Israel. Now, Moses would have to give an account to God first and foremost if he had not carried out the task or the mission. If he had not gone to the elders, then he would have been in trouble. So surely he would have to now give an account to the elders, because he had made the elders aware of what God instructed him to do. Right? And so he had himself to hold accountable for the people's freedom. If he had not carried out the mission, he would then have to give an account or a report to God as to why he did not do it. And he would also have to give an account to the elders if he had not carried out the task, because they would now have to hold him responsible for that, or for the freedom of the children of Israel. So as I made mention that accountability may look like giving an account. Now, some people or some individuals are fearful of this powerful instruction or phrase, or whatever you'd like to name it, because it would mean that someone has to hold them responsible for their actions, right? And some people may, okay, for example, Moses, it could have been maybe he was obedient in carrying out the task or the mission, or doing as God had instructed him to do, because maybe in the quietness of his mind, maybe, I'm just saying maybe he could have been fearful that if he didn't carry out that task or that mission, he probably would have been fearful as to what God would probably, say to him or do with him if he had not done so. But I'm now talking about some individuals being fearful in another sense, because they just don't want anybody to hold them accountable to anything, right? And when individuals are like that, they are being selfish. So it is very important for individuals to have someone to whom they have to give an account, and that individual or individuals may be a friend, it may be your spouse, it may be your parents, perhaps your child, dependent on their age. If they are mature children, could be adolescent, young adults, or mature, children. It could be your spiritual leader, or, persons who are leaders of the different groups that you may be a part of in different ministries. And so these individuals whom would hold you accountable, they are persons whom you should be able to trust. Individuals who should be able to tell you the truth. And that is another thing, because there are individuals who cannot accept or will not accept individuals telling them the truth or telling them like it is, not in a disrespectful manner, but in the sense that these individuals whom will hold you accountable, they are individuals who would also care about your well-being, who would care about you doing right by yourself and right by those who are dependent on you. So it is very important to have individuals in your life whom will hold you accountable to the things you say and the things that you should do, because not every individual is strong-willed enough to hold themselves accountable to do what they say they will do. Another thing that I mentioned that accountability may look like is commitment or being committed. And we should ask ourselves, or you should ask yourself, who or what are you committed to? Is there anything or anyone that you are committed to? Because the thing is that sometimes because individuals are not held accountable, by anyone or to anything, they believe that they can just do about anything they feel like they can or should or want to do. And that again is a bit selfish, because if you have individuals who are dependent on you, like I made mention, you may be a parent, you could simply be a friend, it could be your spouse, it could be even your financial goals, it could be things as simple as that you ought to be held accountable to by being committed to it. So for example, you may have a financial goal and want to save a certain amount of monies to do something very important. It may be to invest in yourself, invest in your education, it may be to invest in your business, it may be to start a business, it may be to purchase a home, it may be to fund your children's education, it may be stuff like that. And if you're not diligent enough, or what should I say, the word I'm looking for, if you're not that person who you can discipline yourself, right? If you're not able to discipline yourself enough to stay committed to what it is that you ought to do, then this is another reason why it would be important for you to have someone to hold you accountable. Another thing about commitment is if you're a parent and your children, obviously they are dependent on you, but you may think that you don't necessarily need to stay committed, and sometimes some parents are flawed in this area, because sometimes some individuals, they may not have seen a proper model parent around them growing up. So some children growing up, they might have not had a father who really protected, provided, and stuff like that. So as they become adults, they themselves may struggle to be a father who provides and protects and cares and loves for their children the way in which they should. And it may also be too that some parents may struggle with commitment because they were not simply taught how to be or stay committed to something that's very simple. Parents may not have given them that freedom to learn simply how to be committed to something by challenging them to carry out something. Like, let them say, ask them what it is that they like to do, or if it's simple as a chore, and they ought to stay committed to carrying out the chore. And if they are not able to, or if they haven't, then there should be some action taken, so they understand that there are consequences when they don't stay committed to a task or to a responsibility, right? And another thing that which I mentioned that accountability may look like is honesty. And honesty is something too that I think a lot of individuals or some individuals have challenges with, and that's in keeping their word. And they lack that because they find comfort in poor excuses. Poor excuses, as well as pointing fingers at others for their inability to function as a responsible individual. I said something very profound right there. This may too be because of fear, not wanting to have anyone to hold them accountable. They may find comfort in pointing fingers, and I've lived that in the past. I've experienced that in the past, right? And when we're not honest enough to say, hey, I was not able to carry out this responsibility or this duty because of whatever the reason may be, an honest reason, no, not just any excuse, but an honest reason. I think people may be better able to respect that if you communicate that you were not able to carry out the task or the responsibility. So if you have challenges in keeping your word, then I think it should be known clearly that that is a challenge that you may have, rather than be pointing fingers at others for your weakness, for your flaw. And sometimes people may use this as a crutch because they have challenges and they are fearful of expressing the challenges and being honest about it. They use this as a crutch to make excuses and to point fingers, and thinking that the other person is who is responsible for the actions that were not taken, that which they should have taken, or the responsibility that which they should have carried out that they did not, right? One of the other things that I said that accountability may look like is honor. Honor is something that is very powerful. It's something that's very profound. It's something that's very potent. And a lot of, I guess you could maybe tie honor and honesty together, right? Because if you're not able to honor, or if you don't honor your word, if you're not honest enough in stating what your challenges are, and you don't honor your responsibility, you have failed. You have failed miserably, right? If you have not communicated properly or effectively your honest reason as to why you would not or have not been able to carry out that responsibility. And honoring your word, would mean fulfilling them by your actions. Now, growing up, I often hear actions speak louder than words. And the Bible tells us that our yea should be yea and our nay be nay. The Bible also talks about faith without works is dead. So persons might be thinking, oh, or I will carry out the mission, or I will carry out the responsibility, or I will do it because I just cannot be bothered and I don't want to, or whatever reason. And sure, you may be an individual too who you don't necessarily wait on others to carry out their responsibilities. You may just go right ahead, jump in and fill the gap. While it may not necessarily be a bad thing, it can be something that becomes the crutch for the individual or another individual, because they may know that you as an individual are a very responsible individual or person. They may become so dependent or become so slacking in their functionality that they just forget about carrying out their responsibility. So we also have to be very careful and mindful for individuals who are like this, who may see you as someone who will always carry out the task, who will always stand to the responsibility, who is very committed and will just do what is to be done. They may see you as their crutch, right? So you have to be very mindful and very careful about that. And I'm not gonna stay very long right here, as I'm gonna be closing very shortly. And I would just like for you to ask yourself today, am I capable enough to hold myself accountable? That's a very good question to ask yourself today. And if you think you are not capable enough to hold yourself accountable, have or find or get yourself an accountable partner. If you have a trusted friend who will hold you accountable, feel free to share with them what your challenges are in holding true to your responsibilities. And if it is a spouse, be honest with them so that they too can assist you where you need it the most. And also, one of the other things, let me just state right here too, is that some persons may think an accountable partner is not necessary because they are somewhat insecure. Some persons feel insecure if they have to give an account to someone or give a report to someone else in sharing what their weaknesses are. But let me just state right here, I grew up hearing no man is an island, no man stands alone. Each man's joy is joy to me, each man's grief is my own. That is also a line from a popular song, right? No, we need each other. We cannot do this life on our own. So we need persons to help us to become the best version of ourselves. And as I keep mentioning, that this podcast network is about helping, sharing with others, with you, some of the things I had challenges with, some of the things I had settled for. And I have come into understanding and knowing the better side of things by understanding my worth, by understanding that I didn't have to settle, or I no longer settle for less than I deserve, and also by now walking in value and victory. I am here to share so that my stories or this podcast will help you to also become the best version of yourself. Because if we are not growing, if we're not becoming the best version of ourselves, we're in big trouble, huge trouble. Remember I talked about we're like a tree, and when we see the fruit trees in our yard or on the street or wherever, and it's bearing much fruit, we're happy, especially if it's our favorite fruit, right? And that tree did not start out as a big tree. It started out as a very small, tiny seed that was planted, grew into a tree, and is bearing fruit. So too, we must bear fruit so others may be able to come to feast from our fruit trees, that they may not only be nourished and supplied, but also that they may experience transformation and experience newness of life and experience God's grace, and also to experience God's love, and to know that they are worthy of His grace and mercy, and to know that they too can walk in value and victory, because that's what we ought to be doing, walking in value and victory. We ought to be, doing the best that we can to improve not just ourselves and our lives, but also to improve the lives of others around us, or families, or friends, or neighborhood, or society, or communities, or nation, and the wider world. So let me just say this at this end today, that you are loved by me, you are loved by God, and you are most loved, of course, by Him. And I also want you to know that you don't have to stay in the dark pit that you are in today. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to fight the fight alone. You don't have to stay and feel defeated. You too can win. You too can walk in value and victory. You too can rise and shine and give God the glory, for His light has come. You too can experience newness of life. You too can shine bright. You too can be a person of power, of excellence, with grace, with God's grace, taking you through and through and making ways for you by His favor. I love you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Shalom. Bye-bye.